They said it couldn't be done, that ships couldn't be built faster than they could be sunk, that no man, no matter how bold, could outpace war itself. But they hadn't met Henry Kaiser, because in the darkest year of the war, when steel was scarce, time was shorter, and hope seemed to be sinking beneath the waves, one man looked at the impossible and started building anyway. It was the winter of 1942, and the Atlantic had become a graveyard. Every morning another convoy failed to arrive. German U-boats prowled beneath the waves like wolves, tearing through Allied cargo ships one after another. Tankers burned on the horizon. Supply lines snapped. For Britain, it felt like the walls were closing in. At one point that year, the Allies were losing a ship every 7 hours. Food, fuel, weapons, all of it swallowed by the cold Atlantic. The math was simple and terrifying. If the losses didn't stop, the war was over. And yet somewhere on the western edge of America, a man with no shipbuilding experience at all, no naval background, no apprenticeships, no family tradition on the docks, believed he could fix it. He wasn't a sailor, he wasn't an engineer, he was a builder, a dreamer, and his name was Henry J. Kaiser. 2 years earlier, Kaiser had been in a very different business. He built highways through mountains, poured concrete for dams, carved tunnels where others said it couldn't be done. He had a reputation for doing the impossible, fast. So when the U.S. Maritime Commission put out contracts to build cargo ships for Britain in 1940, Kaiser signed one immediately. The terms were staggering, 30 vessels in 2 years. He had never built a single ship in his life. To the established shipbuilders, he was a joke, a construction magnate playing sailor. To them, he didn't belong anywhere near a dockyard. But Kaiser didn't see ships as they did. He didn't see a vessel, he saw a machine, a massive moving system of steel, one that could be built piece by piece, the way Detroit built cars. When his chief engineer, Clay Bedford, visited Ford's assembly line, he came back changed. He'd seen the choreography of industry, frames sliding past stations, workers performing the same action over and over with absolute precision. Bedford told Kaiser, "If we can do this with cars, we can do it with ships." The shipbuilders scoffed. Ships weren't toys, they said. They were art, riveted, hammered, and shaped by men who'd spent decades mastering their craft. Kaiser didn't argue. He just started building. From the muddy flats of Richmond, California, something began to rise. Not the shipyard of tradition, but the shipyard of the future. Instead of narrow docks and towering cranes, Kaiser's yards were open and modular, laid out like a car factory. Steel sections were built separately on wide platforms, then moved by rail to be joined together. Each part, a hull, a bow, an engine mount, was built at the same time. This was parallel production, and no one had ever tried it for ships before. Even more radical, Kaiser planned to weld his ships instead of riveting them. To the old guard, this was madness. Rivets were proven reliable. Welding that much steel, they warned, was reckless. The hulls might crack apart at sea. But the clock was ticking. German submarines didn't care about tradition, and the Allies were desperate enough to gamble. The design Kaiser was building was known as the Liberty ship, a simple, rugged cargo vessel designed for speed of construction rather than beauty. The first one took 197 days to complete, the second 169, then 128. Every week the process got faster. Every day the workers, many of whom had never touched a tool before, became more efficient. Because Kaiser didn't recruit shipwrights, he recruited everyone. Farmers, teachers, housewives, students, retirees. If you were willing to learn, there was a place for you in Richmond. In just a few weeks of training, people who had never held a torch were welding steel for the U.S. Navy. Each person learned one simple task: weld a seam, align a plate, attach a bulkhead. The work was divided, simplified, and repeated, and soon it was unstoppable. By the spring of 1942, Kaiser's yards were turning out Liberty ships in 70 days, faster than any shipbuilder on Earth. The old yards couldn't keep up, and yet Kaiser was just getting started. In Oregon, his son Edgar ran the Northwest yards. In California, Clay Bedford commanded Richmond. The two operations became friendly rivals, each determined to outdo the other. By September 1942, the Oregon yard had built a ship in 10 days, a feat so absurd that newspapers accused them of lying. So Richmond decided to answer that challenge. Their goal? To build a ship in less than half that time. At midnight on November 8, 1942, more than 1,000 workers gathered beneath the floodlights of Richmond Yard No. 2. The air was sharp with the smell of burning steel and salt. In front of them stood the prefabricated sections of a new Liberty ship. The bow, the stern, the engine room, the cargo holds, all staged and ready, like a giant puzzle waiting to be assembled. The ship would be named the SS Robert E. Peary. Welders struck their torches, sparks erupted. Crane operators swung 50-ton sections into place. Riveters and fitters moved like a human machine. The work never stopped. Day and night for 4 days straight, the yard was alive with noise and fire. On November 12th, at exactly 3:30 p.m., the last weld was finished. The Peary was complete, built from start to finish in 4 days, 15 hours, 29 minutes. When she slid down the ways in San Francisco Bay, the crowd roared, reporters shouted, cameras flashed. Vice Admiral Emery Land, who had once dismissed Kaiser's methods as reckless, stood in awe. 6 months ago, he said, I would have called this impossible. Henry Kaiser has made traditional wisdom obsolete. And in that single moment, the impossible became reality. What happened next was nothing short of an industrial revolution. Other yards began copying Kaiser's methods, modular sections, parallel production, welding over riveting. By 1943, the average Liberty ship took just 42 days to complete. America was now building 3 ships a day, faster than German submarines could sink them. The tide of the war began to shift. Convoys started arriving again. Britain's lifeline was restored. Kaiser's methods didn't just win a war, they rewrote how the modern world builds. At its peak, Kaiser's shipyards employed nearly 200,000 workers. 40,000 of them were women. They called them Rosies, after the now iconic Rosie the Riveter. But these women weren't just symbols. They were welders, crane operators, inspectors, and forepersons. They proved that skill, courage, and endurance weren't confined to any gender. Kaiser's yards were also among the first in America to integrate their workforce. Black Americans who had been shut out of good-paying industrial jobs found opportunity here, learning trades that would change their families' futures forever. Inside the shipyards, America's social fabric was being rewoven, one weld at a time. Kaiser understood something that few industrialists did. If you want to build fast, you have to take care of your people. He didn't just build ships, he built cities. Richmond, California exploded from 23,000 residents to more than 100,000 in just 3 years. Entire neighborhoods sprang up overnight to house workers and their families. In Oregon, Kaiser built Vanport City, a fully planned community for 40,000 people, complete with schools, parks, and stores. But the most revolutionary idea of all came when Kaiser realized that his workers were losing time and lives to illness and injury. So he created a health plan for them. It would eventually become Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest healthcare systems in America. It all began as a way to keep his welders healthy. By the end of the war, Kaiser's shipyards had produced nearly 1,500 vessels, more than a quarter of all the ships America built during World War II. Across the country, a total of 2,710 Liberty ships rolled off assembly lines, carrying tanks, trucks, food, and ammunition to every corner of the world. They weren't elegant, they weren't fast, but they were strong enough, simple enough, and numerous enough to change history. Kaiser proved something profound, that speed and innovation could defeat experience and tradition, that ordinary people, given the chance, could achieve the extraordinary. The war eventually ended, but Kaiser's influence didn't. His modular assembly line approach became the foundation for modern shipbuilding, from Japan's Mitsubishi and Nagasaki yards to South Korea's towering Hyundai shipyards. The same philosophy spread to other industries: housing, bridge building, aerospace. Kaiser had shown that the key to progress wasn't genius, it was organization. He had turned the chaos of war into an engine of creation, and some of his ships still survive today. The SS Jeremiah O'Brien sails proudly from San Francisco Bay. The John W. Brown in Baltimore serves as a floating museum, a time capsule of steel and courage. Their riveted ancestors are long gone, but the welded Liberty ships endure, monuments to what can happen when belief outpaces fear. Years after the war, Admiral Chester Nimitz reflected on what had truly won the conflict. Japan's generals believed they could sink ships faster than we could build them, he said. They didn't count on Henry Kaiser. And maybe that's the real heart of the story, not just the ships or the statistics, but the spirit. Because Kaiser's legacy isn't just made of steel and sparks. It's made of faith. Faith that limits our illusions, that tradition isn't truth, and that when ordinary people are given purpose, they can move mountains. From his first contract in 1940 to the record-shattering launch of the Robert E. Peary in 1942, Henry Kaiser didn't just build ships, he built proof. Proof that innovation can rise from desperation, that courage can exist in the factory, and that progress is often born from chaos. And even now, decades later, when a modern ship glides down its ways and crashes into the sea in half the time it once took, in that thunder of steel and water, there's still an echo. The echo of the Robert E. Peary's launch. The sound of the moment when the impossible became real.